Heartwarming rescue, struggling single dad saves girl from bridge discover her incredible, life-changing journey. The sun was setting behind the small town, painting the sky in glorious strokes of orange and pink. Jack, a determined single father, returned home after a long day of hard labor. He wiped the sweat from his brow, his muscles aching from the weight of both his construction job and the pressures of being the sole provider for his 10-year-old daughter, Lucy. As he pushed open the door to their modest home, he found her drawings scattered across the table, colorful depictions of superheroes and castles, reminders of a brighter childhood filled with laughter that seemed to fade with each passing day. Jack felt the exhaustion pulling at him, but he couldn't afford to rest. He had bills to pay, food to put on the table, and a daughter who deserved more than what their economic hardship allowed. Each paycheck felt like a temporary fix, never quite enough. The whispers around town, full of judgments and assumptions about their low-income status, gnawed at him like a persistent ache. He struggled with his sense of worth, doubting whether he was enough for Lucy, hoping to shield her from the burdens of their reality. But tension crackled when Lucy, fighting tears, erupted during their conversation about money. "I hate being different," she yelled, the words slicing through the air like a whip. She stormed out, her small frame disappearing into the gathering dusk. Jack, momentarily blindsided by his concern for their finances, didn't even notice she was gone. The sound of her footsteps faded as he remained inside, overwhelmed by guilt and weariness. Minutes turned into agonizing hours as Jack realized Lucy was missing. Panic gripped his chest, tightening like a vice. He raced through the neighborhood, the familiar faces of their tight-knit community morphing into a blur of worry and concern. Soon, neighbors joined the frantic search, lamplit shadows chasing after the same urgency etched on Jack's face. They all knew each other here, bound by threads of shared stories and mutual support. When Jack reached the local bridge, his heart pounded like a drum. The sight took his breath away. There stood Lucy, teetering on the edge, the cool wind blowing her hair back as though nature itself was trying to pull her away from the brink. Tears misted his vision as he called out, desperation lacing his voice. "Lucy! Please, come back. Go away. You don't understand," she shouted, pushing him away when he tried to approach. Each shove reverberated through him, the crushing weight of her pain crashing down like waves. Jack realized with a deep-seated despair that his efforts to provide and protect had not bridged the emotional gap between them. As the townspeople watched, a murmur arose. "Keep trying, Jack," someone encouraged. But Lucy's pained expression spoke volumes. She wasn't simply looking for rescue, she sought acceptance, understanding, and the unfiltered love that had grown obscured by their struggles. In that moment of shared vulnerability, stories of hardships poured out from the community, each echoing the struggles Jack felt. Jack stood, absorbing their vulnerability and honesty, determination crystallizing in his chest. This wasn't just about saving Lucy from danger, it was about healing what remained unspoken between them. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as he took a step forward, ready to reach for her, a life-changing question hung in the air, echoing louder than all their fears combined: could love truly heal the wounds created by societal labels? As the sun dipped below the horizon, illuminating their faces with fading light, Jack felt the fragile thread of hope begin to weave its way into the darkness. Would they be able to bridge the chasm that had separated them? Jack's heart raced as he struggled to find the right words. Lucy was still standing on that precarious edge, her silhouette stark against the vibrant sunset, and every second felt like 1,000 heartbeats ticking away with an unspeakable weight. He could sense the community surrounding him, their eyes glued to the bridge, but all he could focus on was his daughter. Lucy, I know things haven't been easy. I'm trying my best, he called out, his voice steady but laced with emotion. But you're not alone. You never have to be. Please, just step back. We can talk, we can find a way through this together. For a brief moment, Lucy seemed to hesitate, her small frame trembling as the wind whipped around her. Jack took a cautious step closer, but instinctively, he knew he had to tread softly. He raised his hands, palms open, a gesture of sincerity. Do you remember last summer? The trip we took to the lake? Jack said, his tone softening. The way you laughed as I tried to teach you to fish and you ended up catching that enormous catfish. You were so proud. You were my champion that day. He saw a flicker in her eyes, a tiny spark of recognition hidden beneath the shield of her pain. It gave him hope. You're strong, Lucy. So much stronger than you know, he continued. But being strong doesn't mean you have to carry this weight alone. Let me in. Let us fight this together. Lucy's expression twisted confusion, anger, sadness all mingling in the set of her small brows. It felt like time had frozen, suspended in that critical moment of emotional upheaval. You don't understand. You're never home. You don't see what it's like. She yelled, frustration blossoming into rage. Jack felt the sting of her words, piercing and raw. But in the depths of his heart, he knew she was crying out for more than just understanding. She was pleading for connection, for affirmation that her feelings mattered. I may not always be there, but I love you, Lucy. I love you more than anything in this world, he responded, his voice cracking slightly as he poured every ounce of honesty he had into his words. You are everything to me. Please don't think you have to fight alone. Let me show you how much you mean to me. Another tense moment stretched out like an eternity. The townspeople held their breath, the collective energy focusing on the fragile moment of hope unfolding on the bridge. Would his message reach her through the fog of confusion? With a shaky breath, Lucy looked into his eyes, her vulnerability laid bare. The bravado began to deflate as tears fell freely down her cheeks. I just want to be like everyone else. Jack stepped closer, uncertain but desperate. You are enough, just as you are. The world may throw a lot of things our way, but it can't change who you are inside. And I need you to believe that. We can work through this, together. As his words seemed to drift toward her like a warm blanket, the air shifted. Lucy finally took a step back from the edge, her small figure trembling as she stepped closer to Jack. Just then, a breath of relief swept through the onlookers, but Jack's heart continued to race. Would this moment be the beginning of healing, or were there deeper wounds that still needed to be addressed? He reached out, arms wide open, and Lucy, taking one last look at the setting sun, rushed into her father's embrace. In the warmth of their hug, Jack felt the weight of the world lift, if only for a moment. But beneath that relief lingered clarity, the real journey was just beginning. As they stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, a tentative whisper wove through their hearts. How could they navigate the choppy waters ahead? And most importantly, what would it take to not only survive but to thrive together? As Jack held Lucy tightly, the world around them faded into a distant hum. The sounds of the crowd, a mix of relief and shadowy whispers, blurred into white noise. In that embrace, he felt her heartbeat, a rapid rhythm of fear and confusion, yet also a flicker of love and trust. It was a small victory, but far from a resolution. Honey, can we go home? Jack asked gently, his voice just above a whisper. He felt her nod against his shoulder, the warmth of her tears soaking through his shirt. They slowly backed away from the bridge, the gravity of the moment still heavy on their minds. As they reached solid ground, the townspeople began to disperse. Many approached with tears of gratitude in their eyes, thanking Jack for the courage to reach his daughter. Each word was a small balm to his frayed nerves, but a nagging worry persisted. He had pulled her back from the edge, but what about the struggles that awaited them at home? Once in the car, Lucy gazed out of the window, her fingers tracing the misty outline of the glass. Jack could sense the whirlwind inside her. Lucy, he began, but the words caught in his throat. He wasn't sure how to unravel the emotions swirling between them. I didn't mean to scare you, Dad, Lucy suddenly said, her voice small. I just felt so lost. Jack's heart squeezed at her admission. I'm here for you. Always, he said, keeping his eyes on the road while he fought to keep his voice steady. You know, I've been lost too. Sometimes, it feels like the world is too big, too loud, and we're just little dots trying to make sense of everything. Lucy turned to him, her expression shifting from sadness to genuine curiosity. But how do you keep going? A lot of the time I feel like just giving up. Her question pierced through the silence like a bolt of lightning. It was a question he often asked himself. How do you keep going when everything feels too hard? You know, when I was your age, I had a lot of tough times. I lost my mom, and I often felt like the world was closing in on me. But what I learned, Lucy, is that it's okay to feel small. It's just as important to lean on others. Ask for help when things get too heavy. Her brow furrowed slightly. But what if they let you down? Some might, and it can hurt, Jack sighed, remembering his own disappointments. But there's also a chance they might surprise you just like I hope to surprise you and be the dad you need. Lucy looked down, fiddling with her bracelet. I really just want to be like everyone else, she murmured. Jack softly reached out, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. Sweetheart, you are unique, and that's your strength. Embrace who you are. We're going to figure it out together, step by step. The car fell into a calm silence, the sound of the engine and the soft hum of the radio filling the void. Jack stole glances at Lucy, noticing the small, hopeful smile forming. That evening, they sat together on the porch, the setting sun casting a golden hue over everything. It felt like the air was tinged with promise. Lucy began talking about her day at school, about friends she hoped to connect with, hinting at small dreams she had tucked away. As the warmth of their conversation enveloped them, Jack felt a flicker of hope ignite within him. But just as they began to breathe a bit easier, the shrill ring of Jack's phone broke through their moment. His heart sank as he answered. The principal's voice was on the line. There had been an incident at school involving Lucy. Jack's stomach dropped, and an icy grip tightened around his heart. What had happened now? Please, not again, he whispered under his breath, heart pounding with anxiety as he sensed the storm on the horizon. Jack's fingers gripped the phone tighter, his pulse quickening. The principal's voice was calm but firm, an unsettling contrast to the chaos brewing inside his head. Jack, I'm afraid there's been a serious incident with Lucy. Can you come to the school as soon as possible? Is she hurt? What happened? Panic threaded through his words. I think it's best if we discuss this in person, the principal replied. Jack's mind raced. Could it be bullying? Was she in trouble? Had something happened today that sent her spiraling again? He glanced over at Lucy, her face still lit by the last rosy remnants of sunset, blissfully unaware of the storm that had just broken. Lucy, honey, we need to go, he said urgently, his voice shaking slightly. Why? I thought we were gonna, she began, her excitement fading. There's something going on at school. I don't want you to worry, he responded, but that wasn't entirely true. He felt the weight of 1,000 worries crawling back, and he needed to shield her from it all for just a bit longer. They drove in silence, the atmosphere thick with uncertainty. The streetlights flickering on painted shadows across Lucy's worried face as she sunk deeper into her thoughts. Jack's mind was a jumble of remorse and regret. Why had he let her go back to school after the incident at the bridge? He wasn't there to watch over her, he hadn't done enough. At the school, the hallway echoed with distant laughter from kids who seemed to know nothing of the fears weighing on Jack and Lucy. Jack took a deep breath, steeling himself. It couldn't be as bad as he imagined, could it? Inside the principal's office, Lucy sat beside him, her hands fidgeting in her lap. The principal, Miss Harris, looked up from her desk, her expression somber and filled with concern. "Jack, I appreciate you coming so quickly," she began, her tone professional but tinged with compassion. "Just tell me what is going on." Jack interrupted, his voice sharper than he intended. Ms. Harris cleared her throat. Earlier today, Lucy was involved in an incident with a group of her peers. They had been teasing her, and things escalated. Jack felt the blood rush from his head. Teasing? How serious? Is she okay? Lucy remained quiet, staring at the floor. Jack noticed how small she seemed, how fragile at that moment. She's fine physically, but emotionally, she's understandably shaken. "I think it's important you both talk about this. She's feeling isolated," Ms. Harris said gently. Jack turned to Lucy, wanting to pull her into his arms but knowing she needed space. "I'm so sorry, Lucy. I didn't know I should have checked in with you more today," he said, regret pouring over him. She finally looked up, her eyes glistening. "I didn't want to bother you, Dad. I thought if I tried to fit in, it would be okay, but it just got worse." The lump in Jack's throat grew. He reached out, brushing his thumb against her hand. "It's never a bother to share what's wrong. We faced this together, remember?" Ms. Harris nodded. "It's very commendable that you both are willing to talk about this. Communication is key. Perhaps with some counseling, we can find a way to support Lucy better." Jack felt a flicker of determination spark in his chest. "Whatever it takes to help her, I'm in," he said firmly. As they left the office, he could sense Lucy's barriers wavering, hope emerging through the crack. "Can we tell Mom?" she asked softly. Jack's heart ached. "You know your mother, it's complicated. What if she wants to come back?" Jack's breath caught in his throat. That question loomed larger than the weight of their worries. Would it be the answer they needed, or would it open old wounds they weren't ready to heal? "Lucy," he paused, the words hovering. "Right now, let us focus on us." But deep down, Jack knew this was only the beginning. They were faced not just with current struggles but lingering ghosts of the past. As they stepped into the evening, the darkness of the night seemed to envelop them. What would it take to find the light again? The chill of evening settled around Jack and Lucy like a blanket, and as they walked to the car, the weight of their conversation hung heavily in the air. Jack opened the passenger door for Lucy, watching as she slipped inside, her small frame hunched slightly, a protective gesture that tugged painfully at his heart. He slid into the driver's seat and took a moment, letting out a shaky breath. A part of him wanted to shield her from everything, the harsh realities of school, the cruelty of kids, and the complexity of their family. But another part knew that there was no avoiding it. They had to face this challenge head-on. "Do you want to get ice cream?" he asked, trying for a light tone. "Maybe a little treat will help." Lucy's eyes flickered toward him, unsure. "I'm not really in the mood," she whispered. "Okay," Jack said, his heart sinking. "How about we just go home then? We can find something to do together. Watch a movie or play a game." Lucy shrugged, looking out the window as the streetlights blurred into passing streaks of yellow and white. Jack reached over and took her hand, squeezing it gently, hoping to convey his support silently. As they pulled into their driveway, Jack felt the familiar anxiety gnawing at him. Would telling Lucy's mom about the incident help or make things worse? He felt torn. His own battles with their past still lingered, unresolved burdens that weighed on his shoulders. Would this bring Lucy and him closer together, or would it tear down the fragile semblance of normalcy they were trying to create? "Dad," Lucy's voice broke through his thoughts as they entered the house. Do you think Mom will ever come back?" Jack froze. He had prepared for many conversations but this one took him off guard, left him reeling. "Sweetheart," she cut him off. "It's okay, you don't have to answer right now. I've been thinking about it a lot, you know." "I understand," Jack said, his voice thick. It's a lot to process. Sometimes I don't even know how I feel about it. But remember, no matter what happens, I'll always be here for you. They settled into the living room, the soft glow of the lamp casting warm light. Jack flipped through channels aimlessly as Lucy slumped down on the couch, a heavy silence settling in. He stopped on a family movie, a bright scene playing out on screen, laughter spilling from the characters so different from the emotions gripping his own family. Halfway through the movie, he glanced over at Lucy. She was staring, but her eyes looked distant, lost in thought. "Hey, Luce," he said softly, "if you want to talk about what happened today, I'm here." "I know," she replied. "It's just hard. I thought I was strong, you know. That I could handle things." "You are strong," Jack interjected, leaning closer. "Just facing this takes a different kind of strength. And it's okay to feel overwhelmed." Lucy wiped away a stray tear, a small sniffle breaking the silence. "But I should know how to deal with this. I shouldn't let them get to me." "Lucy, nobody knows how to handle this perfectly," Jack reassured her. "It's okay to feel what you're feeling. Remember, we're in this together." She finally cracked a small smile, albeit a fragile one. Together. The word hung in the air between them, swathed in hope. Just then, the phone rang, piercing the quiet. Jack exchanged a glance with Lucy, wondering who it could be. His heart raced. Was it her mother, or maybe the school with more news? "Dad, do you think it's?" Lucy trailed off, holding her breath. Jack picked up the phone, tension rolling off him. "Hello." The voice on the other end was familiar, but the message she carried would change everything he had been contemplating. "Jack, it's me. We need to talk." His stomach dropped as he heard those words. What would this conversation lead to? What more was it going to unveil? "Okay," he finally managed, steeling himself for the implications of that simple phrase. "Let us talk." As the phone call continued, Jack felt the stakes rising. Was this the moment they had both been waiting for? Would the shadows looming over their family finally begin to clear? Yet, deep down, he wondered, would it bring the healing they needed, or would it shatter their world even further? Jack's heart pounded in his chest as he listened, the words on the other end unraveling a tapestry of memories and emotions he'd kept tightly woven together. Lucy's face, caught between hope and concern, mirrored his inner turmoil. Every heartbeat felt like a countdown, ticking away at the fragile peace they had established since her mother's departure. "I know it's been a while," her mother continued, her voice wavering slightly. "But I want to come home. I miss both of you. I need to explain." Jack blinked rapidly, a rush of thoughts colliding in his mind. Part of him wanted to shout that nothing was needed, that they had managed barely, but they had found a rhythm. He glanced at Lucy, who was holding her breath as if waiting for a lifeline. What if this was the lifeline she had been yearning for? Or was it a cruel twist that would pull them back into chaos? "Right now it's complicated," he said, forcing out the words, his voice barely more than a whisper. "Lucy has been through a lot. We all have." "I know," her mother replied, the weight of remorse clear in her voice. "I want to make things right again. I promise I'm ready to come back." Confusion swirled like a storm inside Jack. What did making things right mean? Could it even be real? "Lucy," he began, but the look on her face told him everything. Hope had ignited within her, a flame that warmed the cold corners of their house. "Dad," Lucy said, her voice trembling. "What if she comes back?" And Jack felt pressure building in his chest. "What if she doesn't?" He countered, trying to ground his daughter even as he was losing his grip on reality. "What if this is just words? Talk is cheap." "Jack," her mother interrupted gently, "I don't just want to talk. I need to be there for Lucy. I want to help you both heal." For the first time in a long time, Jack found himself considering the possibility of reconciliation. The last time he'd seen his ex-wife, she had been engulfed by darkness, a shadow of who she once was. Could it be that she had found her way back to the light? Or was this merely a plea for redemption, a way to soothe her own guilt? Lucy's eyes shimmered with unshed tears, the storm within her silent yet fierce. Dad, what if she really means it? I don't know, Luce, Jack admitted, running a hand through his hair. He felt torn between his protective instincts and his desire to make Lucy happy. You deserve a mother who is present, but I'm scared. I don't want to set you up for more pain. I just want to know, Lucy whispered, the vulnerability in her voice slicing through Jack's defenses. What if she has changed? Before he could respond, the line buzzed, and her mother spoke again. I'll come over, Jack. Tomorrow. We can take it slow. Jack could almost feel the tide shift in the room. Should he welcome her back into their lives, or was that opening the door to heartbreak once more? He exchanged a glance with Lucy, whose anticipation and fear echoed in her soft features. They both stood at a precipice, contemplating a leap into the unknown. All right, he said finally, his voice steadying with determination. We'll see you tomorrow. But just so you know, we're not rushing into anything. Thank you, Jack. I promise I won't let you down, her mother replied, and the line went silent. Jack hung up, his hands trembling slightly. A flash of doubt crossed his mind. How would they navigate this fragile moment? Dad, what if we could be a family again? Lucy asked, her eyes wide with hope, the innocence of a child fighting against the harsh reality. Jack sighed, his heart aching with the weight of the unknown. We'll face it together, but it won't be easy. As Lucy nodded, finding strength in his words, he wondered if the night would offer them any clarity or if by morning they would be lost once more. The clock ticked steadily, and tomorrow loomed large, filled with promises and fears intertwining. Lucy sank back against the couch, chewing her lip, and Jack knew that whatever happened, the course of their lives was shifting. They would have to navigate through hope and uncertainty hand in hand, fearing what may come, but yearning for the possibility of healing. The question hung between them heavy like fog: could they truly find their way back to each other? As he settled beside Lucy, she turned to him, whispering, "Do you think she'll really change?" Jack swallowed hard. "I hope so, but hope is a tricky thing." A part of him felt a flicker of optimism. What if this was the start of something beautiful? But another part held starkly back, whispering, what if this leads to hurt once more? What lay ahead was unknown ground, demanding courage to step into. Would they uncover the healing they all desperately needed, or was this just another mirage of hope collapsing under the weight of reality? Morning broke with the sun creeping through the curtains, casting long shadows across the living room. Jack could feel the weight of the day pressing down on him even before he got out of bed. He glanced over at Lucy, still peacefully asleep, her face relaxed and innocent. A flood of emotions washed over him: love, fear, and a flicker of hope. Today would be monumental, a chance to rebuild or possibly shatter any remaining shards of their family portrait. Jack dragged himself to the kitchen, pouring a cup of coffee that felt like a bitter necessity rather than a comfort. The aroma filled the small, quiet space, mixing with the tension that hung in the air. He looked at the clock. Time was slipping away like grains of sand. He thought back to his conversation with Lucy's mother. Would she really be different? Could someone who once turned away from her family now be worthy of forgiveness? He shook his head, trying to compartmentalize the conflicting thoughts, to find clarity amid the chaos. As Lucy stumbled into the kitchen, hair tousled and eyes drowsy, he felt a surge of protectiveness. She looked small, fragile even, exposed to what today could bring. "Hey, Dad," she said, yawned, and grabbed a piece of toast from the counter. "Hey, Luce. You ready for today?" Jack asked, offering a tentative smile. "Yeah, I think so," she replied, though the uncertainty in her voice did not escape him. "I really hope she means it." "Me too," he said, a knot forming in his stomach. "But no matter what happens, I want you to know that I'm here. We'll get through this together." Lucy nodded, her eyes earnest and searching, and for a brief moment, Jack felt like they were tethered together, united in their hope and fear. As they ate breakfast in silence, Jack's mind raced through scenarios. What would they say to each other? How would Lucy react? A part of him wanted to just hide away from this day. But that wasn't an option, they needed to confront the shadows of their past. Finally, the clock struck noon. Jack felt the distant rumble of an impending storm gather around them. The doorbell rang, slicing through the stillness like a knife. "Ready?" he whispered to Lucy, who immediately stiffened, her toast falling from her hand. "I'll get it," she said, moving towards the door, her small frame betraying her determination. Jack's heart raced. As Lucy swung the door open, Jack took a step back, his breath hitching when he saw her. Lucy's mother stood on the threshold, looking both familiar and foreign. Her once disheveled hair was neatly in place, and the weight of time had softened her features, but her eyes still shimmered with something unsettling, a mix of anxiety and determination that matched his own. "Lucy, sweet girl," her mother began, but Jack caught the tremor in her voice. He took a deep breath and stepped next to Lucy, his protective stance instinctively rising. "Let us talk," he said, his tone firm. "But no promises." Lucy looked up at him, her eyes wide in a silent plea for understanding. Jack's heart twisted. Could they truly navigate this uneasy path? Would they find healing, or would they just be embracing another storm? With the door slightly ajar, the weight of the moment pressed heavily between them, thrumming with unspoken fears and unrealized dreams. As they stood at the threshold of a reunion that could change everything, Jack couldn't help but wonder, would this meeting lead to the family they had yearned for, or would it tear them apart once more? "Time to find out," he murmured softly, bracing for the uncertainties that lay ahead. Lucy's mother took a hesitant step into the house, and a wave of tension crashed over Jack like a cold fog. He could see the fight in her eyes, battling against years of regret and lost time. "Can we sit down?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jack nodded, motioning toward the small dining table. He felt Lucy's hand slip into his, squeezing tight, a small act that granted him strength. His heart pounded in his chest. They needed to hear each other, but how could they? As they settled at the table, Jack's gaze swept over Lucy's mother. At that moment, she appeared smaller than he remembered, almost fragile, as if the weight of her past had hunched her shoulders. "I know I've missed so much," she started, the words escaping like a timid bird. "I'm here today because I want to make things right, to be part of your lives again." "Why now?" Jack interjected, his protectiveness flaring. "Why should we believe you?" Her eyes closed momentarily, as if to summon courage. "I've been working on myself. I went through therapy. I realized what my absence meant, what it did to you both. I'm not expecting immediate forgiveness, but I want a chance to change." Lucy looked at Jack, uncertainty dancing in her expression. "Do you really mean that?" "You left us," she said, voice wavering but strong. "You left me." Pain flickered across her mother's face, like a shadow slipping through her defenses. "I know I hurt you both. I don't expect you to understand right now. But I am Mom, I just don't." Lucy's voice trailed off, tension spilling from her body. Jack squeezed her hand tighter. "Let us take it slow," he said, trying to ease the air thick with unresolved emotions. "We can talk, but trust is earned, not given." Jack watched as his words sank in. Lucy's mother nodded, understanding the gravity of the moment, the stakes overwhelming and raw. "I'm ready to do whatever it takes," she murmured. "Even if it means facing my mistakes and living with the consequences." Silence enveloped the room, each heartbeat echoing what was spoken and unsaid. Jack couldn't tell if they were gaining clarity or weaving more confusion. Lucy's grip on his hand softened, yet her eyes remained fixed on the woman before her, the mother she had lost. "Can I ask, can you stay a little longer?" Lucy finally broke the quiet, her voice barely above a whisper but resonating with hope. "I don't want to say goodbye yet." Her mother's eyes glistened, joy and sorrow intertwined like wildfire. Of course. I'm not going anywhere. Jack caught a glimpse of vulnerability in Lucy's expression, the need for connection radiating from her as her mother reached out, brushing a strand of hair behind Lucy's ear. It was a simple gesture, but it carried the weight of 1,000 unspoken wishes. Just then, the door creaked open again. A familiar voice echoed from outside. "Hey, Lucy. You in there?" It was Tommy, her best friend, full of life and energy. Jack's heart sank at the interruption, uncertainty overwhelming again. Would this moment be lost to voices from the past? Or would it instead forge a new path? "We can talk later, if you want." "I really..." Lucy hesitated, glancing between her mother and the door as a whirlwind of emotions swept through her. As Jack watched Lucy's internal battle, he realized this moment would decide the kind of daughter, and perhaps family, she would choose to fight for. Would she embrace her mother again? Would Jack let her take that risk? Feeling the tension twist in the air, Jack's breath hitched. Now, as chatter grew louder just beyond the door, a new wave of choices hung before them, options that could lead either to healing or heartbreak. What if this moment marked the beginning of something special, or would it unravel even more? Can we make it count? He wondered, bracing for the immediate future that felt heavier than ever. Lucy's heart raced as she stared at the door, caught between the pull of her past and the promise of a possible future. Tommy's laughter drifted in like sunlight through a window, bright and warm, but it only deepened the shadows hanging in the room. Jack could see her hesitation, the way uncertainty twisted in her stomach. "Lucy." Tommy called again, louder this time, clearly unaware of the emotional storm brewing inside. "Just a second." She shouted back, her voice trembling slightly. Jack turned to Lucy's mother, whose eyes were wide, brimming with a mixture of apprehension and hope. It was as if she was reading the uncharted map of their lives, trying to find a safe pathway into the heart of her daughter's world. "I don't want to ruin this moment," Lucy's mother said, glancing from Lucy to Jack, tentatively measuring their responses. Lucy looked back at Jack, searching for guidance. "What should I do?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper now. "Focus on what you need," he replied, squeezing her hand gently. "This is your choice. Just remember, whatever decision you make is okay." Her gaze fell to the floor, the weight of her emotions palpable. She felt the heavy history behind her mother's words, punctuated by the lightness of her friend's presence just outside. "My life just kind of exploded, you know. I don't want to shut the door on my mom, but it's okay to feel that way," Jack said, his heart thumping loudly in his chest. "It's okay to want both a mother and friends. You don't have to pick one." Lucy nodded slowly, absorbing his words, her brow furrowed in deep thought. The moment stretched, each heartbeat feeling both fragile and monumental. Jack's mind tried to hold on to the image of their future, a future that bent but didn't break beneath the weight of their past. Finally, Lucy looked back up at her mother, determination in her eyes. "You want to be part of my life again?" she asked, her tone steadying. "Then you need to be here for real. Will you stay? Will you actually be part of this now?" Lucy's mother blinked, emotion swirling within her. "Yes, I will. I promise. I'll show up this time, no more running away." In that instant, the door swung open with a flourish. Tommy burst in, the world outside rushing in with him. "What is going on? Why are you all looking so serious?" he beamed, unaware of the weight of the moment hanging in the air. Jack watched as Lucy's face lit up, the shadows of doubt briefly fading as she turned to her friend. "Just a little family chat," she said, her voice regaining a hint of liveliness. "Nothing to worry about." "Wow. Sounds intense. You guys need snacks or something?" Tommy grinned, making his way further into the room, oblivious to the emotional whirlwind that had just occurred. Lucy's mother, not knowing how to interact with Tommy, glanced at Jack as if searching for direction. Jack nodded subtly, signaling for the two women to follow his lead. "Let us lighten the mood," he suggested, his heart still racing but the tension easing slightly. Everyone loves cookies. I can make some right now. As he turned toward the kitchen, he heard Lucy's laughter build from behind him. The sound was radiant like the sun breaking through heavy clouds, and it nudged at Jack's heart in a way he hadn't expected. In the kitchen, he pulled out the ingredients, his mind buzzing with possibility. Maybe they could all find a new footing together, begin anew in this swirling chaos of life. He sensed Lucy's eyes on him, and as he glanced back, he saw a flicker of hope, a glimmer of trust forming between them, echoing into the future. But in the back of his mind, a question loomed: was this really the turning point? Or simply another step on a long, winding road ahead? Jack's hands moved automatically, mixing and preparing, but his heart drummed with uncertainty. Could they really rebuild from the ashes of betrayal? As laughter floated in from the other room, he suddenly felt the weight of the world in every moment. Change was coming, but would it be the kind of change they all needed? With the scent of cookies starting to fill the air, Jack's resolve tightened. What would the next steps reveal about Lucy's mother and the world around them? Would they find strength in this new beginning or get lost again in the chaos? The aroma of freshly baked cookies filled the air, mingling with the distant sounds of laughter from the living room. Jack felt a flicker of hope lighting up the shadows of fear that had gripped him. He stirred the batter with purpose, each movement a meditation on what could be what should be. He couldn't erase the past, but perhaps they could create a new future, layered with love and understanding. "Dad, they smell amazing," Lucy's voice called, shining with genuine excitement that tugged at his heartstrings. He turned, catching her bright smile as she stood in the doorway alongside her mom and Tommy. The sight warmed him, a reminder of how simple moments could forge connections. Lucy's mother had positioned herself slightly behind Lucy, a flicker of vulnerability evident in her stance. She was back in their lives, but the road to rebuilding trust seemed rocky. "You want to help?" Jack asked, gesturing with a whisk. He was surprised to see Lucy's mother step forward, eager to join, and for the first time, he sensed a shift away from caution and toward collaboration. "Of course," she said, her smile radiating tentative hope. "I'd love to." As they measured out the chocolate chips, Jack kept glancing at Lucy out of the corner of his eye. She was watching her mother closely, but instead of the fear he'd expected, there was a spark of curiosity. And that spark ignited tiny flames of forgiveness. "Lucy, remember when we made those gigantic brownies?" Jack said, trying to stir more than just batter. He needed a distraction from the weight of their new reality. "We practically needed a crane to lift them out of the pan." Lucy giggled, and it warmed his heart to see her laughter echoing off the walls. "Yeah. And you burned your hand." "Only because I didn't want to share." "But worth it for those gooey bites," he grinned back at her. Tommy watched from the edge of the kitchen, delight painted on his face. "Can I make mine with peanut butter?" "Of course. Let us do it all," Lucy exclaimed, her enthusiasm infectious. They worked side by side, and for a moment, it felt like a family again. Jack's heart lightened with each shared laugh, and the dim aura of their past struggles began to lift, revealing the potential for something more vibrant and lasting. "Lucy, I know I've missed so much," her mother chimed in. "But I want to be part of your amazing memories, not just the ones I missed." Jack kept his eyes on the dough to hide the unexpected wave of emotion surging through him. Could she really mean it? He placed the cookies in the oven and turned to the three of them. "Well, we are definitely starting anew here. You can be a part of every fun moment from now on." The warmth that radiated from Lucy, her glowing eyes filled with trust, made his heart ache. "Do you really mean that, Mom? Can you stay for the bake-off?" Her mother nodded, emotion thick in her voice. "I promise, I'm here to stay, Lucy. Whatever you need. I want to be a part of your world." They stayed in that kitchen, creating not just cookies, but also the first layers of healing. The sound of laughter and the hustle of making another batch filled the space, wrapping around them like a warm blanket. At that moment, the essence of family came alive, tangibly present and invigorating. As the timer buzzed and the cookies were pulled from the oven, Jack felt a strange kind of magic in the air. The future still hung uncertain, roads paved with challenges ahead, but together they were willing to step forward, hand in hand. The laughter continued, slicing through the fog of uncertainty, leaving glimmers of warmth in its wake. Jack glanced at Lucy and her mother, the joy radiating between them like sunlight through trees. The past couldn't be changed, but perhaps this moment was enough to build upon. "Can I have 3 cookies?" Tommy asked, swallowing hard as he peered at the batch cooling on the counter. "Make it 4, Jack declared, feeling buoyed by hope. "After all, we've just created a masterpiece." Lucy burst into laughter again, pulling her friend for a high five. Watching them, Jack felt a surge of gratitude. Maybe the future wouldn't be all storms and struggle. Maybe, just maybe, it would be sweet like the cookies they'd made together. And then, just maybe, they'd finally learned how to weather it all together too. At that moment, Jack realized there was no map for this journey ahead. It was a blank canvas they would fill one stroke at a time. One day at a time. As the laughter continued and the oven hummed, Jack leaned back against the counter, and for the first time in a long time, he felt a glimmer of peace settle in his heart. Family was more than blood, it was commitment, love, and willingness to rebuild. This journey might be difficult, but they were ready to embrace it together. And in that moment, the echoes of yesterday faded, making space for tomorrow's possibilities. Now, if you want to witness more stories like this, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to hit that like button. Your likes feed the algorithm and keep our community growing. Comment below your thoughts and feelings about this heartwarming ending. Your voices are what makes this journey worth it. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation together. We can uplift each other. Let us spread the love and hope.